Hello and welcome to today's webinar where we have Lily as my usual partner here. And today we have
Hi,
the
everyone.
luck to welcome Nikki, Scuba Nikki, joining
Hi.
us for talking about women. So maybe at the wrong place, but I think it's always something new to learn, right? So
You're very welcome
everybody.
here, JC.
Thank you, thank you. And well, thank you for joining. We will wait a few minutes. I see some people are still joining, so we will give the chance to the others to join. See more people joining. You may type in the chat where you are joining us from, so that would be interesting. And I don't see any men, by the way, so far.
Ooh,
They're scared.
too much information.
Yeah.
Too much information, yes. Okay. Natasha from Spain, welcome. And of course, this webinar is also recorded, so there will be the replay either on YouTube or in our membership community that you will receive also. You will receive the email with all the information in about 2 days. Oh, Linda from Kansas City. That's still early morning, I suppose.
And we have Jody from Canada.
Super.
Yeah. It's nice to see where everyone comes from all around the world.
Linda from Karachi,
United by
Pakistan.
scuba diving.
11 a.m., not too bad. 10 p.m. in Karachi. Well, we really appreciate your dedication here to join
That's
us.
my bedtime. Wow.
Yeah.
I think this is the beauty of these webinars. You have people from all around the world, and it's really cool to have this opportunity.
Absolutely.
I would say let's wait one or two more minutes, and then Nikki, you will have, or Lily, you will have the word, right?
Yeah. Let's wait a few more minutes to see if anyone wants to join us, and then we will get started. So if anyone's interested, I'm in Spain at the moment. So is Nikki, actually, who's joining us. And JC is in Paris, and it's snowing, right?
Yeah, actually, now it's raining. It was snowing yesterday.
Okay.
Now it's more a stormy weather in Paris. I'm at the dive show in Paris. So if someone is in Paris, you can come to the show. And we have also Tal from Diver Show who will be present tomorrow. We are on the SSI and booth, so you are welcome to visit us. And we would not say that's a weather to go around and walk around in Paris right now.
Not the best weather for sightseeing. Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. Okay, so I think we can get started. So thank you again to everyone for joining us. The webinar today is about women in diving, and we're going to be discussing challenges, confidence, and celebrating strengths. And today we have a guest speaker with us, Diver Show ambassador and diving instructor, diving professional, women in diving advocate, and role model for women divers, I would say. Scuba Nikki. Scuba
Hi,
Nikki,
yes.
because that's her Instagram tag.
I'm all over the place. I'm doing everything at the same time.
Yeah. So I'll let you introduce yourself now.
Yes, hi, I'm Nikki, Scuba Nikki on Instagram. I make Instagram content for women, and I host all-female livable trips in Egypt. And as Lily correctly said, I am a Diver Show ambassador, proudly. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about women on this webinar, about taboos, about, well, the things that are difficult in the day-to-day life of women in diving, and hoping that some of you will feel it's relatable and maybe help.
Before we get started, I just want to say if anyone at any time has any questions or comments, whether it be related to the current slide or something that just pops up into your head, as long as it's diving related. Please feel free to use the chat function, or even you should see a little button with a question mark for Q&A. You can write your questions there, and if we can answer them directly, we can. If not, we will check at the end of the webinar and answer them then for you. So, okay, Nikki, I think you have a presentation that you wanted to share with us.
Yes, let me show you.
Okay, we can see, I think, well, I can see your screen. I assume everyone can see your screen.
Yeah,
JC, yeah, okay, great.
All right, well, women in diving, challenges, confidence, and celebrating strengths. Let's get started. If it works, there we go. On the agenda today, we've got the reality of women's gear fit and sizing, why women drop out earlier, the biological differences. We've got some psychological barriers and how to build confidence. We've got how to navigate negative attitudes or gender bias, which unfortunately still exists. We're going to talk about safety and preparedness, about how much representation matters, especially on social media. We're going to talk about social dynamics and why we make exceptional divers. All right, so let's get started. Lily, do you want me to start us off?
Yeah, if you...
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So we see here that there's huge differences between rental and between proper, or let's say bought equipment or women's equipment. We've got a lot of issues with poor fitting BCDs, which can lead to trim issues. It can lead to air consumption problems and even to discomfort. And I think we've all had it at least once that our masks were too large for smaller faces. Now I have a very big face and a big nose, so I've never had it, but I know enough women that have, and that starts to leak. And that's especially on our first dives, is so uncomfortable. We've got water in our nose and there's things going on everywhere. We don't know what we're doing. So that's very frustrating. We've also got that foot pockets can get too wide, that our wetsuits are too stiff, and how some gear is called unisex, but it doesn't actually advantage women at all. Lily, I don't know if you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, so I think I mean, this is a big issue, especially with rental gear, because rental gear usually takes the standard design of a unisex jacket, which is a man's design rather than women's. And the rental gear is what we usually start with. So a beginner female diver starts with a disadvantage, because they start usually with discomfort, whether it be that the BCD will not sit properly because the straps are in the wrong location, and cannot be tightened properly, or because, as you already mentioned about the mask, I mean, this is a huge issue. And for wetsuits, I mean, women feel the cold more anyway, generally. Obviously, in general, this is not a definite, but in general, women feel the cold quicker. If we have wetsuits that are maybe not quite the right size for our shape, and then allow gaps around the ankles or wrists, then we're going to be letting in more water, which means getting cooler. And I think this is something that dive centers need to reconsider when they have their rental equipment in place, because they could lose a lot of female customers in the beginning through to discomfort. And I remember you telling me something which was quite interesting, actually, that when you started diving, you didn't even know that there was women's gear existing.
No.
So actually, if anyone wants to comment and let us know if you were even aware that there's women's gear, or when you started, were you given specific women's rental gear or women's diving gear that fitted you properly, or did you have any issues? Would be interesting to hear. And yeah, I think this is a big gap in the market and would make women feel more comfortable from the get-go.
Yeah. When I started, our dive center did have female wetsuits, which were always too small. If you're a tall woman, then you're instantly going into men's. But the BCD, and funny enough, I have the exact one on the right that for me was uncharted territory. I had not a clue that there was female BCDs, not a clue until I became a dive master and I was gifted one. But not a clue. And for me, the weight belt, it was such a problem because my hips would hurt so much. And that's when I found out with female BCDs, 9 out of 10 times there's integrated weights. And what a game changer. And the fact that they don't tell us this at the start, for me, was such a disappointment. Should we?
Yeah, if you want to move on to the next slide, I think we have another example of a typical standard rental or unisex, or let's call it man's wetsuit or women's wetsuit. And just so you can see a little bit the difference, if you've not seen it before, so women's wetsuits typically are more designed for the women's shape. So they allow for a bit more room in the hips and the bust, but keeping the rest of the areas generally a bit smaller, a bit tighter. So you still have the security or the tightness to not let the water flow through your wetsuit and get absolutely frozen during the dive.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, when a wetsuit is too big, it breaks the dive, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Should we move on to?
There is actually a question, if I may interrupt.
Yeah, sure.
From Jody, she asked, do you host seminars for women gear?
I don't know if Nikki has an answer for this different to mine. I mean, currently not, but this is definitely something we can look into for a future webinar, maybe together with Divashaw and Nikki. We're always looking for new topics, so it's definitely something we will make a note of and look into, because why not?
Yeah, it's a fantastic topic. I've made videos on it a few times, but that's my recommendation, so what I use and what I like. But it's a good idea to show the differences a bit more. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I had a question for you, Nikki, actually. I mean, obviously you dive in Spain, so it's cooler water. This maybe doesn't go for people who are diving in water, let's say 26 degrees Celsius plus. Sorry, I do not know the Fahrenheit for this, for anyone who prefers Fahrenheit. Maybe JC, you can help me out there. But basically, would you suggest that maybe women in particular start using dry suits earlier when they learn to dive, because of the fact that they get colder earlier, and maybe also because the general rental wetsuits don't fit as well?
I mean, I think we can solve the issue of women being cold by having appropriate wetsuits for women. I think that if you have that, then I don't think we should push dry suits onto people that have just started diving. So let's say it's their second dive ever, then I think it's too much. It's too much information. You know, you've got your inflator hose. I have no idea what's going on over there. You've got a mask and you've got this and there's so much that for me, it would be just too much information, too much going on. But I think that once women have gone through the open water course, then definitely the next best step is the dry suit course. I mean, Spain is, to be honest, always cold. You know, there's August and it's okay. But for me, it's always cold. And so I think a dry suit, it would be amazing for women, especially because we get colder easily. But if we want to solve the issue from the start, we need to get good wetsuits for women from the get-go at dive centers.
Okay, so there needs to, women need to demand fitting wetsuits when they start diving. Yeah,
for sure. Try on the wetsuit before going into the water. It's I mean, so many people don't do that, and they just tell them, "Oh, this is my height," and then you get to the dive site, and then it's go in, have fun. And if it doesn't fit, then you have a problem. Yeah. But if you know, if you get it on first, then it's already a big change. You can feel how it fits.
Definitely. Okay. Shall we move on to the next topic?
Yeah. Yes. So why women drop out of diving earlier? There's a few factors that we need to consider in this, and this is especially talking about women going from open water to advanced. There's a lot that go from advanced to rescue, because rescue is a great course to have, but it's more after that initial step. And one of those points is the poorly fitted rental gear. It's a massive issue and something that can make women feel very uncomfortable. Also feeling rushed, especially if you're in a big group of men, then you don't want to be, the only one that isn't going along with the group. So maybe the instructor will start rushing you a bit, which is not comfortable at all. The skills being present, but the confidence being unsupported, which happens a lot, unfortunately. Or the let the guys handle it moments, which happen very often, and not just at Open Water, but very, very often to all of us. And
yeah, I've definitely had some of those, even with, in my sort of, after 10 years of working as an instructor with 4,000 dives, log dives, and then you get people, men on a dive saying, oh, let me help you with that, or I can take care of this, and you're like, okay, sure you can.
I'll do it for you. Yeah.
I mean, it's meant in a nice way, but it kind of also makes you feel a bit annoyed at the same time. And I can imagine if you're a novice, then you're not just going to get annoyed. You're going to feel like it's going to knock your confidence, like you're not capable.
Totally. It's going to feel like you don't have that strength, which is the next point. You're going to assume that you just don't have the strength for that because men or instructors or whatever, they say, don't worry, be careful, I'll do it for you. Then you're going to think you can't do it. And again, that also plays in the male-dominated boats. If you're one woman and 20 men, which I've had very often, then not only will you get comments, but you'll also think that you need to go along with the group. And if you can't do something, then that's not great for your confidence.
Yeah, you're going to feel a lot more peer pressure when it's one gender is the majority, or the opposite gender is the majority. I assume for men it might be the same. I don't know, but especially for women, if you're the only woman amongst a whole group of male, you're going to feel it's either going to cause you to sort of go a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you're going to maybe overstep your confidence and push your limits too far, because you're going to feel like, okay, I got to just do this and suck it up. Or maybe you just step out too quickly and you say, okay, I'm just going to give up now so I don't hold anyone back and not continue further.
Yeah. Or what I've had is that I'd get home so tired because I had to fight the whole day with, the comments of men, and I have to prove myself that I can do it. And you get home and you're tired. It's not fun.
No.
And lastly, lack of visible female role models. There are a lot of women divers who are on social media and they post on social media, but not many only focus on women. And I think that's definitely a point that everyone can improve on.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we discussed this earlier, and for me, like personally, because I am a female scuba diving instructor, I have a lot of female role models in my Instagram feed, but I think as a normal diver, probably they're hard to find.
Yeah.
Because if you were to just look at the general, maybe dive center feeds, and the bigger role models, they're generally male, like the majority would be men. So if you were to just come across that immediately, and if you're not if you're not maybe confident in it, or if you're questioning whether it's a sport for you, it might already sort of put you off and say, okay, maybe it's not the right thing for me to do because I wouldn't feel like I fit in here.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of room for improvement there.
Yeah.
But there's a very big responsibility on dive centers, and there's a lot that they can do to make women feel like they belong in the diving industry. We spoke about it earlier, but better gear sizing, especially rental gear, is so important, and something that in Spain, I've never seen, except female wetsuits here and there. But apart from that, I never see anything else just for women. So that's something they can improve on. And also the equal expectations and inclusive language, which is so important, because if you start making the same jokes or comments as the divers do in the group, so let's say someone makes a comment and you laugh at it, or you joke with it, then that hurts even more because it's a dive center. It's who you're diving with and who you're paying. So that hurts even more. And And also really important, space for questions. If we feel like we're asking something and they kind of look at us weird, or we're afraid to ask something and that they'll just laugh in our face, then we're never going to ask anything. And I think that's also why it's really important to have more female instructors in the dive centers, because it's not easy to ask a man for something private, like, oh, it's too tight here, or, oh, that time a month, or, it's not easy to talk with men about some things. And what we just spoke about, visibility of female pros. There's not many, not at all, not many women who are instructors or professionals in the diving industry, and something that can be changed. And most important, focus on experience. Just because someone is young or a woman doesn't mean that they can't do it. And I think that, Lily, you've had more examples of those situations than me, that someone thought that you couldn't do it just because you're young and or a woman.
Yeah, yeah. I've had probably I probably couldn't count how many stories like that. But one of my favorite that obviously clearly sticks in my mind because I'd never forget it, and it was a long time ago now, but I think I was around 21 when I first started diving, and I was explaining the dive side and the briefing, and this one guy, he was mid-50s, he wasn't listening, and so I just very kindly, respectfully asked him, hey, can you just listen to the briefing and then we'll get into the water? And he just looked at me and said, I don't need to learn from you. You can't teach me anything. I was diving since before you were born. So I checked his logbook before, and I knew he started diving in the 1980s. So I wasn't born then, but he had 20 log dives in like 22 years. So yeah. I know, sorry, 32 years. So 20 log dives in 32 years. So it kind of shows that he doesn't have much knowledge, because, I mean, 20 dives can be a good amount of dives if you do it over a short period of time, because,
Sure.
You can gain a lot of knowledge and confidence. But if you do it over such a long period of time, probably you're not going to be a great diver and a confident diver. So, yeah, and for that I just knew straight away that it was, well, possibly my age, but it was a gender thing. I don't think he would have said this if there was a male stood in front of him giving him a briefing.
No,
So,
I mean, obviously we'll never know, but
no.
Yeah, the chances are small that it would have been the same with a man. I've had something very similar. Just became a dive master, and to me he was nicer because he started clapping mid briefing and told me that I was done because I was talking too much. I had just said my name and that was it, but I just started. But for him that was enough, and he actually started clapping. So again, I don't think he would have done that to a man. Very clearly an age issue and a gender issue. But one of or two of many examples of what can happen if you look at age and gender only.
Definitely. And I think here the dive, as you said, what dive centers can do. I mean, this is all starts from the support of the dive center. If a dive center, they must be aware of how their instructors are behaving or how the divers are behaving. They need to be on the ball, especially when it's women learning to dive that are new in the industry and want to start diving. If they have any sort of negative attitudes towards them, they're going to want to quit quite quickly. And yeah, it's not a nice experience, and it's unnecessary, especially in this day and age. We're so much better than that. We're way more forward thinking, way more open. And I think a lot of the times it's just a lack of briefing or training for dive center staff about how we need to behave towards people, which you would think isn't necessary, but unfortunately it still is.
Yep.
We have Jody said older women pros get tossed all the time. That's really sad to hear, Jody. I'm sorry that that's perhaps your experience. But yeah, I can also imagine that that's an issue.
For sure.
I think it can be quite a shallow industry in a way as well, in that way, still, unfortunately.
unfortunately.
Okay. Should we move on to the next slide? If anyone has any questions, again, please feel free to write your comments.
Biological differences, which I think is very important to mention because some myths get spread very quickly, and it's not actually here, but there are stories go around that men create of women, being worse at this or worse at that because of this. And it's very important that we know the facts so we can kind of come up for ourselves and stand up for ourselves and explain what the truth is. One of the myths that I find really funny is sharks being attracted to us when we go diving on our period. And I think it's not funny because people think it's true, but it's just funny of just how it came up, how did someone kind of imagine that happening, that a shark comes from the Red Sea all the way to Spain because they smell me. I don't see how that would happen, but it's unfortunately a myth that still goes around. Another myth goes around that our sac rate is worse, that we breathe worse, or we're just not as good underwater, which is again completely untrue because our sac rate is usually much better underwater. But one of the points that is really important is that we do get cold faster. That is very true. Because of wetsuits, because of pushing ourselves to go deeper or longer, because other men are doing it. Not wanting to be the one that says, oh, I want to get out, as being the only woman. And it's so important that that doesn't happen and that we're comfortable, not only for our safety, because there's a higher hypothermia risk, which isn't great to have afterwards, but also because we're just going to be the whole dive feeling uncomfortable, feeling like we need to get out, just being completely distracted from what's going on in front of us.
I think here as well is again putting back onto the dive center, but dive center should be aware of this, and if they're aware of this, if I'm offering a typical man 3 millimeter for the particular conditions, I should consider offering women a 5 mil and not just straight away give them a 3 mil as well. I mean, obviously not all women feel the cold as much, but generally, I mean, especially if I think of all the female divers I've had, or divers in general, it has been the women that have felt the cold quicker, and therefore, why not just provide them with a better exposure suit?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely something for a dive center to look at, or even just have that conversation with someone. It's very common that a woman has less muscle mass than a man, which affects us in all ways, and one of them being that we get cold fast, and that's not something to be ashamed of. That's truth. And if a woman decides to not want to have that extra layer, that's of course totally fine, but they should have that option, or at least that choice, and I feel like that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I quite often used to offer my vest with the hood to my divers, my female divers that got cold, like after dive 2, because I knew they would just, like the dive 1 had just, they enjoyed it, but the cold just got to them and kind of ruined it for them. And you just thought, okay, this doesn't make sense. And the only option I had, because other than giving them a second complete wetsuit, because the dive center wasn't able to provide, was for me to offer my gear.
Yeah, and it's really important. I mean, I've had it where I was too cold to go in for the next dive, and afterwards I found out that there was a whole pod of dolphins right there. So, and I missed that, and my mother still reminds me every day because she did go in.
Oh no!
And she reminds me every day. But so it's not only just because of comfort, but you will miss things, and so it's one of those examples. It's maybe a little bit silly. Well, not for me. I wanted to see the dolphins. But cold can be horrible and can totally break the dive.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you're not focused as well, so it just leads to other dangers because you're not necessarily focused. You're just thinking about getting out and not enjoying what's going on. So yeah.
Yep, totally. Another really good point is our menstrual cycle, which honestly just affects everything, especially if we take medication for it, which I think we'll get into a little bit later in a safety point. But it affects us in every single way. Here it says energy, comfort, focus. Think of fatigue, think of migraines, think of cramps, us thinking that sharks will come and eat us. It affects us in every single way, and that can really ruin a dive. And I got lucky because when I go in, then all my cramps disappear, all my pain, everything goes away. But going onto a dive, I've had it where leading onto the actual, the ocean, so walking onto the beach, I had to kind of hide it that I was in pain because it's a taboo and men are not supposed to know. It's dirty. And that pain is just horrible. And you go into the dive kind of a bit annoyed, frustrated because you're in pain. So that affects us in every single way, I think.
Yeah, we have a question from Kaylee. She's asking, do you have any other tips on what to do with diving if you're on your period? What do you mean other than using medication, Kaylee? Or just generally tips on making it more comfortable for you? I'm not sure if she's answering. We can get back to that one otherwise if you just in general. Okay.
Is that a question for me, or would you like to answer that?
Well, I guess we can both answer it from our own perspective because everyone experiences it differently as well. I've been fairly lucky that I've not had generally migraines or really heavy cramps with menstruation. But of course, fatigue and I mean, I was working in diving, so that just makes your diving day that little bit harder.
Yeah.
Generally, I think hydration is the biggest tip I could give. Obviously, when we dive, we need to stay hydrated, but if you're on your cycle, it's even more important, and you just really shouldn't forget it. Just have a bottle with you, refill, and just keep drinking. And yeah, and then just find a way that is the most comfortable for you. I mean, for me, in the end, I found that like these menstruation cups were the best solution for me when diving. But obviously that's not for everyone. For me, it was also to do with being eco-friendly and finding eco-friendly alternatives. But the other thing is where you're going to be diving from. Are you diving from shore? Are you coming back to the base between each dive where you can maybe get changed, use decent facilities? I mean, a lot of our dives were on dive boats, which makes it very difficult. And I do think that here, I mean, I understand it's a boat, but there could be things in place to make it easier for women and more comfortable for getting changed during or in between dives, obviously. Yeah. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Nikki.
I mean, for me, my biggest tip is to really listen to your body and just see what it needs. I have no experience in the cups. I've never used any of that. But for me, what really helped was medication. Was the medication that's safe, so that you can drive with and that you can kind of just get around with. But yeah, for me, the most important is just to listen to my body. And as you said, hydrate, which is really important, but your body will tell you that as well, of course. But if at some point you can't go into the dive because there's pain, or you can't go deeper because you feel uncomfortable, just whatever you feel, your body will tell you what it needs. And so for me, that's very important. Just listen to that. And depending on what I'm feeling, then I'll make my choice. If I dive, if I don't dive, if I take something, if I don't take something. If I eat, if I don't eat, it's really depending on how you feel every day. Every day is different, I think.
Yeah, I think also to not let the fear of missing out take over. As much as what Nikki just said about missing a dive with dolphins, has kind of said the opposite. But sometimes we do just need to listen to our body and say, okay,
Yeah.
today's not a diving day, or at least I'm going to miss out the morning dive, and I
Yeah,
can
for
join
sure.
the afternoon dive, and just do what's best for you in that moment.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, and try not to schedule liveaboard trips for your cycle.
Yeah, or just, I mean, last trip I had like a massive pack of everything, of tampons, of pads, of everything, just in case someone needed something. But if you can schedule it around it, then yeah, that's a great tip. Shall we move on
Yeah,
to the
let's
next
move
one?
on. Yeah.
Yes, so psychological barriers. Sorry. So Lily, your amazing design shows that there's it's to, how do you say it, POV, point of view.
Points of
Thank you.
view. Yeah.
We have the what we might think as women. So am I slowing everyone down? You know, just no question, just not because everyone else agrees, so I agree as well. You know, just get on with it because everyone else is doing it, so I can't say anything, or I don't want extra attention because I'm the only woman. And then the comments that some men make, to me, I've had careful because you'll break a nail. And I had a bet going on with the captain of the boat just to see if my nail would break, and it didn't, obviously, but they really think that it will. That's heavy, let me carry it. Or what I've had, can you even carry it? Or, you know, we'll take care of you, don't worry about it, you're overthinking it. And my favorite one, you're better than I expected. My absolute favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a passive aggressive, positive comment.
Very much.
Yeah, I think the issue here, I mean, firstly, of course, anyone, I mean, it doesn't matter gender, we're going to have our thoughts and our things that we're concerned about when we start something new, or do something that we don't do so often, and where we might have fears. But I think especially if we're as a woman in a group of males, or mostly male dominated area, we're going to feel the extra pressure to not slow everyone down, to not look like we are the weakest link, to not look like we're making a fuss, or to just pretend we understand, even though we completely didn't understand. And probably 50% of the men didn't understand either, no, but they're too macho to say that they didn't understand.
Yep.
So,
100%.
and yeah, and the other thing, I mean, a lot of these comments, which are all real comments that probably me and Nikki have heard, are some of them are possibly well-meaning, and I mean, especially depending on who it's come from, but it still just makes you think. It kind of puts you down. You know, it's like, oh, that's heavy, let me carry it. Yeah, it is heavy, but also I'm a strong woman. I signed up for the course. I'm up for it. I'm going to do it. If I need help, I can ask you. And I think this is something that we also need to just make sure that we respond to correctly, and just say, okay, that's very kind, but I'm fine. If I need help, I'll be sure to ask you.
Yeah, especially when you're doing your open water course, you know, you need to learn to carry something. You need to learn how to cope with the weight, because you want to become an independent diver. Not independent saying you're going alone, but not going with a professional. And a point that you mentioned earlier, which I thought was really good when we spoke about this, is that sometimes it's crew on a boat that wants to help you. You know, let me do it for you, or let me take this off for you. And we spoke a little bit about how it's difficult sometimes to say no, or especially if it's in a country that you've never been. I think that a really good tip, and something that I did immediately, was learn just a few local words if it is crew that is doing this or trying to help you in a what they think is a nice way. So knowing just a few basic words, just knowing yes and no, for instance, or thank you, or enough, just a few simple words, I think would help a lot to at least remove the comments from the boat crew. Obviously then comes the divers, but you don't need to know any local words, I think, for that. That's just knowing how to say no, which is not always easy.
Absolutely. Okay, should we move on?
Yep. Navigating negativity. It's very difficult sometimes. The people just assume that we're less capable. They offer us help without us asking for it, which we mentioned earlier with boat crew. Comments that can undermine our confidence, as we saw earlier, even though sometimes they're well meant. And these are really important to mention and to talk about because it can increase our stress and it can make us feel like we're not good enough or that we can't do it. And it might make us feel like we can't ask a question or speak up about something. And that will, it will affect how much we enjoy the dive or even the day at all. It will affect how we learn something. Maybe we'll only remember one bit of the day. Let's say we forget that the first rule is to hold your breath, but we will remember what that one guide said or what that one person said. So it'll affect how much we learn. And it'll affect how much we remember from the dive. Again, we might only remember the comment, but we won't remember the amazing fish that we saw. So it's very important to talk about this. And yeah, how to navigate it is that you're allowed to ask questions and you're allowed to take your time. And very important, you're allowed to say no. So you can say, I've got it, or I'll ask you if I need it, or, thank you for offering, but I can do it myself. And it's very important to choose the people around you, choose who you want around you. So if you have had an instructor that was really good, stick to them, go back to them if you want to learn something new. Or if you have one buddy that you're traveling with and they're a fantastic buddy, then stay with them. But maybe they're not a great buddy, then go for someone else. And trust that experience, it will build your confidence. So if you learn skill after skill and you learn how to be comfortable underwater and you learn how to be comfortable in your gear, all those little steps, that will build your confidence. And at some point you will know that whatever they're saying is just not true. Maybe the first day you'll think it's true, but the second day you won't believe it anymore. And that's, I think, the most important bit of it all. Anything you wanted to add?
No, that's great. I just saw that Peggy has said that I'm 76 and at this age I will accept help, especially on shore dives. And I absolutely agree with you, Peggy. I think that's great. And I think it is also important to know when you need help and to admit it and to accept it. Just like it's also okay to say no to help when you don't need it. Or it maybe makes you uncomfortable. But I do, of course, there are moments where anyone would need help. Doesn't matter gender, age. And there's moments then, of course, we just suddenly feel, or I don't know, if I started doing tech diving with 5 tanks, I'm probably going to ask for help.
Yeah,
sure. At least to begin with, until I build up some muscle. But there's moments where we need help, and I absolutely agree with you. And that's also fine, and we shouldn't feel ashamed about needing help either. But I think what we're trying to say here is that just sometimes when it's like, oh, she's a woman, she's going to need my help, straight away knocks your confidence a little bit. I think when you get to a certain age, you have your own confidence and you know what you need and you're happy to ask for help if you need it. But thank you for that input.
Yeah, I think what's most important is you have a choice. Sometimes I need help. My knee isn't as good as it used to be. So I sometimes need help as well. Or I've had people ask me to carry their gear, and you help, but you're allowed to have a choice and say no or yes, whatever you feel like that day.
Yeah, and I think if you're the only female in a group and you're the only one being offered help, it just feels a little bit insulting.
Yep.
And doesn't help with your confidence, let's say.
And again, this is from our opinion, because I feel the same way, but someone else might think that it's a way of being a gentleman, or offering it nicely. And that's totally okay. This is just from our perspective.
Yeah.
I think I will now pass it on to the professional.
Okay, so here we're going to talk about safety and preparedness, what women want to know and no one talks about. So the first point is about solo travel safety for female divers. And basically, I mean, as solo travelers go, generally, unfortunately, women are at more risk. There's more predators out there that are preying on women, and maybe see them as weak and easy targets. But solo travel doesn't mean unsupported travel. I think the important thing here is with your choices, your planning, selecting reputable dive operators and accommodation to stay in, having a true plan in place, and also making people at home aware of your plan. So although you're solo traveling, you should involve family or friends back home in your plans and not just disappear for 2 weeks or however long you're going, so that people know where you should be and how they can reach you, and stay in touch with people, so people know that you're safe, because it's not nice for people that care about you to have to worry. And yeah, do a little bit of research. So obviously I said select reputable dive operators, and we're just lucky that in this day and age with the internet, we have review systems in place with, I don't know, Airbnb, liveaboard.com, even diving operators. If we use Google search or Trustpilot, we can see if there's any negativity, and we can avoid the centers with negative reviews. So for how to assess risk on remote dive sites, I think firstly, again, check out the dive operator you're going to be diving with, and ensure that they take safety of their guests seriously. You can do this by checking out their website. Do they have any information about the safety? Do they have information about diving insurance? Is that a must, that divers dive with a diving insurance? Because this also tells a lot about a diving center, especially in a remote location. You can email them and maybe just voice a few concerns about your upcoming trip and how they would handle a certain situation, or perhaps they could even tell you where the nearest medical facilities are, that you can just note them down and have them in your logbook, or wherever you want to note this information. And also to ask about specialized facilities such as diving doctors and hyperbaric chambers. Because every dive center that knows what they're doing and is a reputable operation should have this information in place and should know how to respond in the event of an emergency. And the last thing you want to do is to get to a remote dive site somewhere in Micronesia and something go wrong, and then you're suddenly trying to figure this stuff all out. And if the dive center is not able to give you a helping hand, then you can become truly stuck. And of course, a diving insurance is your helping hand and your backup line. So, I mean, with DiverSure, if you have a DiverSure membership plan, firstly, you need to make sure that, again, your friends and family have the policy details, and the diving center has the policy details, not just keep it to yourself. Because especially if you're a solo traveler, if something were to happen to you and you're not immediately conscious or nobody can speak to you and ask you questions, this information needs to be noted down somewhere. Because the first step would be immediately after alerting emergency services would be to contact us, and we would then coordinate with the emergency services, helping them, because many of you might not be aware, but a lot of local emergency services don't necessarily know which is the best and nearest hyperbaric chamber, for example. This is where we come in. So we would then inform them what are the next steps for the best outcome for this patient, and what they need to do, where they need to take them, and how to conduct the evacuation. So this is all really important, and extra important if you're traveling on your own and you don't have somebody else that's maybe able to assist with this sort of situation. Diving medical forms. This is general safety. When we go to a new diving center, a lot of them will ask for us to fill out a diving medical form. A lot of them won't. But something I would recommend is to get the diving medical form. Usually you can find it online, you can download it. And before you book any trip, or before you at least go on the trip, just check through it yourself and make sure that you can answer all the questions. And if you have any questions that you're concerned about, always go see a doctor first. I mean, anyway, I would recommend to serious divers to get a checkup every now and then, before their next sort of spell of diving. Especially if they've had a bit of time in between. Maybe something's changed in your body. You know, we could have changed a little bit of size. We could have changed in our health somehow. Maybe we had an illness that we kind of forgot about because, you know, you recover and then you're not thinking about it. COVID was a massive thing. You know, it's affected millions of us, and people still suffer from long COVID. And I'm sure a lot of them are not even thinking about it when they go diving again for the first time. But actually, they need to get checked out because that's changed their lungs for their lifetime, you know, and they need to make sure that a doctor can tell them, yes, you're fine to dive. And this, you don't want this to happen when you reach the dive center, because when you're suddenly in a remote place and you get to the dive center and they have to tell you, oh, you can't dive because for your own safety, when you filled out this medical form, there's actually an issue. Some places they have a doctor on site, they can send you to the local doctor, but they don't have your medical history. They don't always have the standard of medical care that we are used to. So their opinion might not be as sturdy as if we had have got checked out back home. So this is really important and something I would recommend to everyone to do this before you go diving, rather than wait until you're just about to go diving and then get caught out. And how to understand dive insurance plans. I mean, there's no like difference in understanding a plan for women. There's no gender differences. We don't have special plans for women. But women tend to want more detail. We're a little bit more risk aware. So we like to know when we're doing a sport that's considered a slightly risky sport, that we're doing it in a safe way, and that we're covered. So when you're looking to get the right coverage plan, I would always recommend when I mean, for us, you can go to the website, you can read through the bullet points of what is covered, but then you can also click on the full terms and conditions. And I would always recommend to anyone to just take a little bit of extra time, read through the terms and conditions, and make sure you understand what the policy covers you for, because if there's any gaps, you may need to get an additional coverage for something else that you need covered. But also that if you have any questions, you can come to our customer support and we can answer your questions before you get, maybe, I don't want to say the wrong coverage, but the coverage that maybe wasn't quite the right coverage for you or for your trip. So it always makes sense to just take that little bit of extra time before purchasing a coverage plan to make sure that it's the correct one for you, for your trip. And I mean, we have a great team for our customer services that are always happy to help. So you can contact us at any time. Sorry, go on, Nikki, please.
No, I just wanted to add that in some places, when you go to a doctor to get checked up, they don't really put a lot of effort into it. Here in Spain, they just look at you up and down and go, right, you're okay. I've had it a few times. But it's very important to assess ourselves. You know, what has happened in the last 12 months? Have I changed in any way? That could be age. That could be, as you said, illness, maybe a surgery. What has happened? And it's very important for us to assess ourselves. And what I wanted to add to what you said about reputable dive centers, that something we need to be careful about, that I've experienced myself a few times, is that sometimes they have amazing reviews, but they aren't as great, because sometimes people vote with their feet. You know, they just never come back, but they don't write it down. And I think that we have social media for this, and that is such an amazing place to ask questions. We've got Girls That Scuba. We've got Facebook groups of scuba diving. Or if you look up scuba diving, you'll find like 1,000 groups or more. And we can always ask there, has anyone been diving with this or this dive center? How was it? And that will sometimes bring out more honesty into the answer than Google reviews. Sometimes people just don't leave something written down because they're maybe a bit afraid to.
That's true. That's a good point. Thank you, Nikki. We have Natasha who's asked, does your insurance cover a liveaboard trip? And yeah, the answer is yes. We have specialized travel plans that are for divers, so they cover all your diving needs. And our premium coverage also has special liveaboard coverage, so liveaboard rider inclusive. You're welcome.
There are two questions in the Q&A part.
Yeah, okay. Another great webinar, how to ask for help as we age. We have adaptive diving. How about the aging diver? Men won't ask for help. We will make note of this and we will see what we can come up with for the future. But I love your ideas. Thank you, Jody. And Naila is asking if we cover or offer anything for Pakistanis. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, we do not cover Pakistan as a diving location or residence. If you're Pakistani living elsewhere, then we can still offer you coverage. Okay, shall we move on, Nikki?
Yes. Representation. I'm going to talk like I know what I'm talking about. But I do a little bit on social media and have noticed that there are just so few to no women making any marketing for scuba diving. And as you very correctly said, Lily, when you just start scuba diving or you're just starting to look it up, your For You page will just be men or the ocean, which is fine, of course, but there won't be as many women. And when you start following people and you start making online friends, that's when you start finding the women. But before that, it's very difficult to find women. And sometimes they're a small profile like me. I don't have thousands of followers, and that's when, of course, the algorithm doesn't push you as much, and that's when people don't find you. So I think it's so important that more women get shared, and we speak about women that maybe inspire us, women that are a big deal for us, because just in that way we can then introduce women to friends of ours. If I tell you about someone that has inspired me, you then look them up and then you have met another woman in the diving industry. And of course, making content as a woman. So there's questions that every woman has and that doesn't want to ask it. But then if you're a woman on social media, you can answer those questions. And I think that word of mouth through social media is the easiest way. So yeah, that's for me, that's what I've started focusing on for nearly a year now, is making content for women, because it was something that was lacking. And I think that I'd appreciate it as well if I'd just started. And maybe we wanted to talk about some female heroes in the industry. Lily, you mentioned someone earlier. Maybe you want to speak about it a little bit?
Well, firstly, so one of my biggest heroes who I follow on Instagram, I don't know if anyone has heard of her, is Cristina Zenato. So she's a renowned shark diver, generally in the Bahamas, but she's also works in marine protection. But her main occupation is removing fishing hooks from sharks. But I really like the way she does it, because there are lots of influencers now. They dive with sharks, they touch the sharks, they act a little bit too over friendly with sharks. And firstly, I'm a big advocate for don't touch, especially where the ocean is concerned. I think they're wild animals and they don't need us touching them. But she has a reason to do it. She's really saving their lives, allowing them to eat again naturally without any issues. And if anyone fancies following her, it's Cristina Zenato. She has like on her Instagram, sometimes she posts like a picture of all the hooks she's collected in her lifetime. It is incredible. Like it is amazing what she's done. So for me, she's a big hero. And the other big hero, although she's not maybe in the industry, but my grandma was the one who got me into diving when she was 60. She learned to dive at the age of 60.
Wow.
And she was so amazed at scuba diving and loved it so much. I mean, she went all the way up to rescue diver, but she also got me my first discover scuba diving I think I was 12 at the time, and and also gifted me the open water diver course. So she basically was, yeah, what got me into scuba diving as a diver, a passionate diver, and also in my career. So yeah, big thanks to her.
Yeah, for me, it's very similar. On Instagram, I do have one female hero, which I really like, which is Mermaid L. She makes content for, well, children specifically, but I like it as well. And it's mainly about conservation. It's mainly about pollution. It's about the ocean, just fun facts, but made in a very simple way. And of course, her being completely as a mermaid, which I think is everyone's, well, at least my dream. I love it. But very similar to you, there's one woman that got me into diving, that gifted me everything up until where I am, which is my mom. When I was 13, she kind of dragged me along into the open water course and has been dragging me to different countries to dive. And because of her persistence of me getting into the ocean.
Poor you.
We are where we are today, and now she's a dive master, and we dive together all over the world. And she always comes with me to carry my gear. In other words, she wants to join the trip. So she got me into the scuba diving world. So again, very important to get each other into the ocean. No, if it doesn't have to always be a family, can be friends, but we just need one person to get us into diving, and then from there on, it's a long journey, I think.
Yeah, great. Linda says the Women Divers Hall of Fame is a great resource to learn about women divers. I have a few friends who have been honored, and I was invited on a trip with them 1 year as it was a fundraiser. A great experience to dive with them. That sounds great.
Yep, I've heard of them on social media. They're quite big,
Yeah,
and they're doing amazing things. Yeah, they're highlighting very important women in the industry.
okay, should we move on?
Yes, for sure. Social dynamics. Social dynamics. Yeah, we've been talking about men and how they can pressure us into going deeper or taking more challenges on, maybe tech diving, or which a lot of men have tried to pressure me into as well. Tech diving, I've always had to say no, but it can also come from women. And we mentioned here it says here the queen bee effect. There's this sentence, women support women, and it's not always like that. I've had very often experiences with women who, due to maybe jealousy, due to maybe insecurity, whatever it was, had to bring other women down. And I think that if you're such a small group, a small niche in the industry, then you need to support one another more than ever, because no one else will do it. So it's very difficult when you're in a group and there's one or a few women who feel like they need to compete and need to kind of prove themselves in ways of bringing other people down. But then it's up to us to say something about it and make sure that women support women thing, that actually comes back. And that's not only for divers, also for dive professionals. When someone comes up to us, and I've had it a few times where someone came up to me and said, this and this person is acting like this and this, then it's up to us to say something, because we are the instructor, we're the superior, we're the teacher of the group. And sometimes we need to help and keep maintain that peace in the group for everyone to enjoy themselves. Because if there's one woman that is maybe ruining the day for more women, then that's totally not worth it, and we need to do something about it, I think.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Nikki. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we have enough trouble and enough hate as it is. We need to support each other. And I think sometimes a little bit of feeling of competition, and jealousy, as you said. But in the end, we just should support each other, help each other out. Sometimes we're the ones who need to be supported and need help, and sometimes we're the ones who can give that support. So this is really important, and especially to make everyone feel welcome and comfortable. And this obviously doesn't just relate to diving, but everywhere on everything that we do.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely for in the world of diving where there's less women as it is, if they're then unfriendly towards other women, then it kind of makes it even worse. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, we're going to slowly wrap it up now, guys. Thank you very much. We got one more slide, I think.
Yes, one more. Just a few points of why although some men don't think so, we are exceptional divers. Buoyancy is usually better. Our trim is usually better. Our air management is usually much better because we're very calm. We have stronger risk management. Sometimes we can help someone better because even though we're not a professional, we're not an experienced diver, we have a feeling of coming over as empathetic. Maybe some of us are mothers and they have that feeling of helping someone. And we have this unique connection with marine life. I think that we appreciate it so much more than some men do, because well, I mean, I've had conversations with fish and we have great chats, but you connect with marine life in such a unique way that some people won't relate to. And we're very safety focused. It's very important to be safe. Again, maybe we're a mother. I'm not in this case, but if you're a mother, then usually you're very focused on safety. And that makes us, I think, amazing divers.
Yeah, and diving isn't the kind of, I mean, obviously this is not taking into account free diving in general, but scuba diving is not the sport where we need to push ourselves and challenge ourselves to go deeper and do this. And, I mean, generally the typical scuba diver does it for the joy of the feeling underwater, the weightlessness, the peace, the beautiful views down there, the quiet, and that you don't need ego down there. Like this, 100%. It doesn't belong there. Yeah, we need to just switch everything off. It doesn't matter what we look like. Although we can look super cool. There's some nice gear out there now.
We can. But the ocean won't judge us, depending on who we are.
So it's, just everyone should feel like they fit in. Everyone should be able to enjoy it in their way. And yeah. Very nice. Okay.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So I think if anyone has any questions, we have overrun a little bit. We should have only been an hour. So I thank you very much for everyone. Sorry for talking too much. But lovely. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I mean, if there's any more questions, feel free. But otherwise, we will say goodbye. And where can I find these communities again? JC, can you message in the group? And Nikki, I think you might be better answering this. Are there any other groups or dive schools specifically for women?
Well, there's this amazing all-female liveaboard coming up, 28th of November to the 5th of December in Egypt, just for women. And there's many communities. JC just added one, but there's Facebook groups, there's Instagram profiles. There's loads of places to find where it's just for women, and that's a safe place. You can ask anything. But yeah, there's all-female liveaboard coming up. Just to add.
What's your Instagram
tag? It's at Scuba Nikki. So Scuba and then IKKY.
Maybe JC, you could just put it in the chat, because unfortunately when I put it in, no one sees it. I don't know what happened, but I can only message to...
I hope it's correct.
Yes,
yeah,
perfect.
Looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Naila says, I can vouch for it. My daughter and I went to Nikki's first one in 2025 and going to her next one this year too.
Yeah,
great.
Amazing.
I wish I could join.
Well,
yeah.
You're welcome to.
Let's see. Let's see what the year brings.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, I think we will wrap it up. But thank you so much, Nikki, for joining as our guest speaker. Really, really appreciate it. I think everyone learned a lot, and it was really nice to have you.
Thank you both so much. It was an honor to be here.
And thank you everyone else for joining.
Yes,
Yeah, thanks everyone.
super cool. Thank you.
Okay.
I learned a lot too.
I'm glad you did. I'll send you an exam and you can fill it in.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Have a great evening or
Okay.
great day for the ones
Yeah.
joining us from the US. Super to have you with us. Have a nice day, nice evening.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you.